Welcome back to more Sonic Lost World. Last time we got through the desert ruins, so this time our first stage is Tropical Coast Zone 3.
I tested the blue one, and he's more powerful than I anticipated. He shows much potential.
Who cares about him? Now that I'm free, I want to squeeze Eggman till he pops!
And eat him, I suppose.
Well, yeah.
There are better ways to make him suffer.
But more delicious?
What would you say if I told you we could destroy Eggman's world and use its energy to make ourselves unbelievably powerful?
Well, I would say that I had taught you well.
Yes, you have. And it will be Eggman's own creation that causes his destruction.
This era of Sonic has been heavily derided for its writing by the fandom, but I do think Sonic Lost World is actually the biggest offender of this writing trope. Sonic Colors, for example, doesn't try to tell a particularly serious story, so when it tries to be really jokey, whether or not the jokes land, at least it feels a little bit more tonally consistent. In some ways, I even think Forces is more tonally consistent, in that it's not trying to be funny, but often accidentally ends up being funny. Meanwhile, with Sonic Lost World, it's both trying to tell a fairly serious story, and it's trying to be really silly. So even when Zavok is supposed to be really threatening, you immediately have Zomom undercutting that tension with gross-out humor. In general, I do feel like the character writing in Lost World is the worst it's ever been for the mainline Sonic series, and we haven't even gotten to my least favorite example of the writing in this game. There's actually something that really bugs me about this game, but we'll be getting there before too long, I'm pretty sure. We have a stage entirely built around grind rails. I'm a little bit worried about this actually because we might not have enough animals to actually unlock the next stage because we're not really fighting any enemies here. I might have to go to an earlier stage and grind for a bit, but I'll be sure to cut that out. By the way, running into the fan blades will be an instant death, which would definitely be a shame right before a checkpoint like that. In some ways, these remind me of Donkey Kong Country minecart stages, but we do have some air control, which is good, especially because there's actually a tougher rail stage later on that's actually considered probably one of the worst stages in the entire game. That may seem like an exaggeration, but I'll be sure to explain why whenever we get to that point. We need about 50 animals to actually get to the next stage, and I really am hoping we'll be able to get enough, but we might be cutting it close. But again, if we do have to go and get some more, I'll make sure to cut that out. We do have a few enemies at least, so we might be able to get fairly close. In the Wii U version, obviously the requirement was even higher, with more enemies or with more opportunities to get animals with some of the mini-games that they actually cut out of this version. But for example, this stage in this version the final stage in this version in this zone requires 800 animals and requires 1,000 in the Wii U version. And that does apply for a lot of the later stages as well. In general, it kind of feels like an arbitrary way to force you to go through levels multiple times, so I'm not the biggest fan of that, if I'm being honest. It just kind of feels like a way to pad out the game, and as usual, this game isn't terribly long, as is the case with a lot of Sonic games. We made it to the end, so I guess we'll find out how many we'll end up with.
Something bad's happening!
Whoa! What's going on?
I don't know. It's like something in the sky is draining the life out of the world. Plants, animals, even the air feels cold and dead.
Okay, you guys stay safe down there. I'll try to figure out what's going on and stop it.
I did have to play the stage a second time to get enough animals, but next up is Zone 4.
Your time is almost over, rash hedgehog. I shall prepare for you a lesson in respect. A painful lesson.
Oh, someone's gonna get taken to school, all right.
Follow, if you dare.
And starting out Zone 4, we have even more fruit to worry about, and plenty of enemies to defeat. Hopefully we won't have to go through too many stages in order to get animals, but I think after this recording, I might actually go back to older stages and just get as many animals as possible to avoid having to farm in the future. Again, it's just kind of annoying having to do this, to be honest. I'm really not a fan of this mechanic, but again, even with it being downgraded in this version, it's still pretty annoying. Next up, we have a pineapple. It actually rolls away from us, unlike some of the other fruit that'll actually chase us. So what we want to do is basically push it into defeating these chicken robots, which I think are actually supposed to be the ones from the Wing Fortress zone in Sonic 2, which is a really weird callback, to be honest. In general, this game does have a lot of classic enemies. In a lot of ways, it almost feels like the most true, like, classic to 2D or classic to 3D style Sonic game, in a way that's kind of like Heroes, where I almost feel like Adventure, it was kind of a leap from the older games. Meanwhile, this almost feels more traditionally 2D Sonic, but again, that also kind of invites comparisons to what Mario did with the 3D series, 3D Land and 3D World, being more like back to basics style and more true to the 2D roots of the series in a 3D format. So again, Sonic just kind of has a problem of like feeling like they're copying Mario sometimes, and this definitely doesn't help. That was actually way more annoying than I was expecting it to be, but we finally have a rocket wisp to get to the next section. I'm trying to remember how this part works. I guess we just get a little cannon, like so. There's another balloon, so we'll target this one, just because I'm curious. I actually don't remember what this is for. I guess just for rings? I mean, that's still nice. Again, building up lives would be a welcome improvement, like so. And we do have another rocket over here, which will take us somewhere. I guess we have to go to this balloon. I'm kind of winging it at this point. Again, I'm not really overly familiar with a lot of these levels, so I'm just kind of guessing where I have to go in a lot of cases. I also feel like aiming with gyro controls would actually be kind of annoying here, given how much precision you'd need. I'm also trying to figure out what to do here, like if we just have to get to the end, or if we actually do have to defeat the enemies. So in this case, we might have to defeat the enemies, or want to defeat the enemies, just because, again, we're kind of short on animals, though, again, we won't really run into this until the end of the next world. So yeah, we should be set for animals until the next video, at the very least. We also have a bell with a red ring, but again, I'm not really concerned about red rings, so we'll move on for now. I'd rather not lose a life in the process. Next up, we have a 2D section. In general, I actually feel like these 2D sections are really disorienting, and again, it's really weird to me as someone who actually doesn't really mind Mario Galaxy that much, but for some reason, the combination of going faster and these, like, really windy sections can be very annoying. We actually have one of these little monkey robots from Sonic 2, so again, you do have a lot of Sonic 2 enemies in here, which is kind of nice as a fan of Sonic 2, but it almost does make it have a kind of old school feel that is almost, again, an odd step back from how other Sonic games were at the time. In general, at least we... I was about to say, at least we just got a checkpoint, but I was going to say, it is kind of an interesting era of Sonic and how they are relying so much on nostalgia in these games. And this will be the case for a very long time in the franchise. It would take until, actually, around the time of this video releasing, depending on the release date of the game, to actually break free of that a little bit. At the time of this recording, Sonic Superstars actually doesn't have a concrete release date, but it's expected sometime this fall. This is actually being recorded in late summer, actually. So yeah, at this point it doesn't have a release date, but it's expected to be around the time of this video coming out. But in general, that being one of the first Sonic games in a very long time to have all original zones, it's kind of odd, actually, and it definitely stands out and really emphasizes... Am I stuck? I thought I was soft-locked for a moment. That would have been very unfortunate. I think that happened in my practice playthrough as well. With these, like, spheres, the landing collision can be very choppy on them, so yeah, I end up getting stuck on those quite a bit. We have plenty of spikes to go through here. I think we also have some opportunities for parkour, potentially, or maybe not. We also have this giant fish trying to eat us, so we'll try to avoid that. I don't know why Sonic Homing attacked behind me like that. Also, in the mod loader I'm using, there isn't actually an option to disable the lock-on except for bosses, where you need the lock-on, but I almost feel like it makes sense, given that it's very unwieldy at times. Sometimes, like that, you'll just target the wrong thing and go careening in some random direction, haphazardly.
Your lesson begins now.
Well, we finally made it to Zik, so we'll see how this fight goes. I don't really remember this fight very well. I mean, we can target the fruit, but I guess we should target him directly. He is taking off, so I guess we should chase after him with the rocket. Except I have no clue where he actually went, so I guess we'll just go to this one being the closest, and just hope for the best, because, again, I don't really remember this fight hardly at all. There he is, so that was the right call, I guess. And I'm guessing one more hit, since we didn't use fully charged lock-ons before. Yeah, I'm basically just going to the closest balloon, because I'm really not sure where I'm supposed to be going here, because you really can't see him on these little planetoids.
We have a mutual problem. One so large that it will take both of us to overcome
Whatever. I told you, we can handle the Zeddy by ourselves.
it. That may be true, but the rebellious swine have gotten hold of a device of mine, and they're using it in ways for which it was never designed.
What was it designed for, Doctor?
It was supposed to extract energy from our world, but the machine is unstable. Once it reaches full power, it can't be shut off. It will drain our world dry.
Oh, so that's what Amy was talking about.
And you just want to go smash it, don't you?
Well, yeah. What? It's what I do.
Oh, always your answer to everything, Hedgehog. If you wish to create a cataclysmic explosion that will incinerate everything within 100 miles, please smash away.
So, there's no off switch?
No, not anymore. I need to get to the machine and reprogram the shutdown sequence. I'll supply the brains. You will supply the brawn I need to get past the Zeddy.
Oh, and you're asking so nicely.
Good one, buddy.
Thanks.
Man up, Tails. I don't like working with my most hated enemies any more than you do, but our entire world is at stake.
Yeah, well, teaming up with you feels like the end of the world, Eggman. I don't want to take a long shower by the time we're done.
So, next up is World 4, Frozen Factory, so let's head to Zone 1. I have some opinions on the physics in this game. Again, having a run button is kind of nice, but in this level, it can actually cause problems, because you'll actually start skating. And if you start skating, you actually can't really control your jump direction. So in this case, we can't really course correct at all, meaning we'll probably end up careening into objects quite a bit here. I'll do my best to avoid taking too much damage and losing too many lives, because if I'm being honest, I want to hold on to them for the next stage, because the next stage is a thing, and I'll leave it at that for now. We are getting close to the part of the game I really don't like, and the last cutscene alludes to it. The idea of Sonic and Tails and Eggman teaming up being such an impossibility in the story really irks me as someone whose first Sonic game was actually Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, where, guess what? They all have to team up and fight a bigger enemy. And in general, I kind of dislike how this game ignores continuity in the franchise by having it like, oh, Sonic and Tails would never team up with Eggman, and Eggman would never team up with Sonic. That's just an absurd possibility. So again, as someone who started with Sonic Adventure 2, it is odd to me how much they're dismissive of the possibility, and in general, these games of this era kind of feel like they're in their own bubble, where other than having a few characters show up, especially in Forces, for example, and the DS version of Colors, which is kind of its own thing, these feel very detached from the adventure games, other than having certain characters pop up. And I really dislike that, to be honest. I definitely feel like it's odd to kind of leave behind parts of the franchise that are actually really well liked in a case like Sonic, with Adventure 2's style of storytelling. Though to be fair, the other games like Unleashed and 06 obviously kind of also didn't really acknowledge much out of Adventure either. So it's just kind of a universal problem in this franchise, is they're trying to make these games standalone, but oftentimes it ends up just feeling like ignoring continuity without really retconning anything. Like, I feel there are merits to rebooting something, especially in cases where lore gets too complicated, and just kind of starting fresh is kind of nice. But I feel like Sonic is trying to juggle not changing too much, while also trying to kind of move past things, and it ends up feeling like very inelegant at times, in that they're trying to kind of do both, and neither kind of works particularly well. Like, either they try to incorporate too much of the franchise's history to the point of bogging it down, or they kind of leave out too much, and it feels like it's weirdly disconnected for being a direct sequel, for example. Like, in this game, we have the Wisps. They never really explain why they're here. I'm pretty sure in, like, Sonic Runners, the mobile game, there's some line about how the Wisps tend to hang out in these various areas to try to help Sonic, but that's, like, never actually stated in any game past Colors. So they're just kind of here because they're convenient to use as power-ups. So again, the kind of disregard for a lot of lore ends up feeling a little bit frustrating at times, and again, I almost feel like just rebooting the franchise would be better at a point. Again, that's actually another problem I have with Prime, with how disconnected it feels from the main universe, and yet they're still insisting that it is in the Prime universe. I just wish Prime was its own thing, like Sonic X. And if it was disconnected, I would actually be more forgiving about things like, oh, this character is acting out of character. But when you're saying this is the same Sonic from all these other games, that's when I have more of a problem. I am looping, so I definitely remember the stage now being annoying. I don't remember how to break the loop, to be honest. I actually did it without even remembering in my practice run, so I think we just have to stay on the upper path, but because I fell down, we got messed up, or maybe we have to find a different path. I genuinely am having trouble remembering what I'm supposed to do here. And yeah, we also have these ice physics and crushers that we have to worry about. I think it's in the next area, there's some like other path we need to take. But yeah, otherwise we'll just end up looping until the end of time. Yeah, I think we actually have to go up here, maybe? Which I was trying to do earlier, but I just kind of messed it up partway through, and ended up falling down to the lower path. And then it just got so turned around that I forgot where I was actually supposed to go. So yeah, I think it's here. We're supposed to stay on the upper path and not fall down, and we should be good to go. Hopefully. I think we're actually getting pretty close to the end of the stage, too. I don't remember this one being terribly long. This part's actually mostly on rails, so it's actually not too difficult to stay on the path. I actually don't know how I fell, in hindsight. We have a bit of a parkour section, potentially like so. And yeah, you can actually kind of shimmy from side to side like that, which is kind of cool. Or there's also wisp there for laser.
Whoa, overcompensate much? Man, how many military factories does a guy need?
If you weren't always destroying them, I wouldn't need so many.
And done!
Thanks for fixing me.
No problem. Sorry you got stuck with a voice chip that looks like it was built by a 2-year-old.
I think I liked it better when I was trying to destroy you.
Yeah, well, feelings mutual, Eggface.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Before we start destroying each other, let's remember why we're working together.
Okay, please remind me.
Tails, we need Eggman to shut down his machine.
And you don't trust me to do it.
What? No! I trust you, Tails. It's just that...
No, you don't. You trust Eggman more. Do you know how much that bites?
I do trust you, Tails, but the whole world's in danger because I did something stupid. Do you know how much that bites?
Actually, nothing bites more than having to listen to this dreadful conversation.
Eggman, you bite!
I'll save my thoughts on that cutscene for the next stage, but also, Zone 2 might be one of the most notorious stages in Sonic Lost World. I don't know how long this is going to take. We could be stuck on the stage for the entire video potentially if things go really wrong. So because of that, I think I'm actually going to stop here and save this for next time. So thank you for watching, and I hope you'll join me next time for more Sonic Lost World.